Good morning to all of you, girls and boys of all ages. Well, remember when Ludwig von Mises said there is no more dangerous menace to civilization than a government of incompetent, corrupt, or vile men. And what if I tell you that political corruption has become a serious problem to our nation? Yes, you heard it right. Our panel discussion for today is all about political corruption. So, what is political corruption? Political corruption is the abuse of public power, office, or resources by elected government official for personal gain, by extortion, soliciting, or offering bribe. It can also take the form of office holders maintaining themselves by purchasing votes by enacting laws which use taxpayers' money. Don't you know corruption has existed since Egyptian dynasty and still persists in almost every country around the globe? Looking through history, corruption seems inevitable. The Oxford Dictionary defined corruption as dishonest or fraudulent conduct by those in power, primarily involving bribery. Corruption originates from a Latin word corruptus, the past participle of corrumpere, meaning mar, bribe, and destroy. Good day everyone! I'm Ace Donato, the instructor for this event. At this moment, I'm proud to represent to you our chairman and discussant for today. Later on, we will discuss the problems or conflict about political corruption. I know you all looking forward to it, so let's not waste any more time. Let's start the discussion.
According to Oscar Ameringer, politics is a gentle art of getting votes from the poor and campaign funds from the rich by promising to protect each other from the other. Pleasant morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome for today's panel discussion. My name is Ariana Isabella Nicorasvalio, the chairman for today. It's also a pleasure to partake in this panel with our participant as well as to welcome you to this event. Corruption is a disease, a cancer that is the cultural, political, and economic fabric of society. It destroys the functioning of vital organs. In the words of Transparency International, corruption is one of the greatest challenges of the contemporary world. It undermines good government, fundamentally destroys public policy, leads to the misallocation of resources, harms the private sector and private sector development, and particularly hurts the poor. But before we proceed discussing this topic, let's all welcome first the panelists. First, the Mayor of Tarlac City, Mayor Lian Domingo. Please give her a round of applause. Next, a resident from Tarlac City, San Rafael, Nadine Ampuan. And lastly, Attorney Sagan, a lawyer. Corruption in the Philippines is not something as novel as the coronavirus that is plaguing the country and the world at large. It is rather an endemic, deep-seated, and deep-rooted virus that has afflicted the country since time immemorial. It is a social menace and a mammoth stumbling block to good governance that had penetrated not just the government, but even the private and non-government sectors as well as the Philippine society, even before the outbreak of COVID-19 crisis in the country. Philippine perception of corruption is divided by institution, with 80% saying that most government officials are corrupt, but only 7% believe that the president is the same. Now let's begin. As a part of government officials, Mayor Domingo, what can you say about the spreading around our country saying that 18% of government officials are corrupt in our nation? Or how does corruption affect good governance?
Corruption works against transparency, accountability, and rule of law. It also diminishes the credibility of state institutions and authority and undermines good governance. It's hard to reach this kind of position. I mean to be part of government officials. Because to reach this kind of position, we need to invest our time and efforts. So I won't waste all of my efforts by doing some dirty things like corrupting our country. I will not allow officials, even my friends or my allies, to corrupt our nation. I'm telling you, I will fire you at the first instance of corruption you will meet. I will not tolerate this kind of leadership. To those people who experience this kind of things, I'm sorry, and I promise I will ensure of being a good role model for the sake of the politicians. Lastly, for the government officials who are being corrupted, you will lose the power and the authority on the work you've done to reach the label that you have right now. Corruption is killing our nation. It deprives the Philippines to move up and achieve progress. But corruption is not only what we usually perceive it to be. The act of corruption doesn't only involve stealing of the people's money or the public fund. There are other types of corruption in our country that make Filipino life miserable. Moreover, it's not only our public officials who are committing corruption. Every Filipino can also become corrupt.
Wow, thank you so much for your comprehensive insights, Mayor Domingo. Now, we all know that a lot of people had experience about political corruption. May I ask the resident from San Rafael, Tarlac City, Ms. Nadine Ampuan, how did you struggle because of political corruption? Or what are the effects you experienced because of political corruption?
Corruption erodes the trust we have in the public sector to act in our best interest. It also wastes our taxes or rates that have been earmarked for important community projects. Meaning, we have to put up with poor quality services or infrastructure, or we miss out altogether. Corruption does not only occur in government. You can see corruption in our daily life. It impacts the implementation of the rule of law and democratic values. It takes funding away from important infrastructure investments such as roads, schools, hospitals, and deters international investors. Actually, corruption affects us all. It threatens sustainable economic development, ethical values, and justice. It destabilizes our society and endangers the rule of law. It undermines the institutions and values of our democracy.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nadine Ampuan. I'm sorry to hear that. Now that we know how political corruption affected the society, may I ask Attorney Sayon, what rights does corruption violate? Or how does political corruption affect human rights?
Corruption. Corruption in the criminal justice system can violate the right to a fair trial in a specific context, but also contributes to an environment in which other human rights abuses can occur with impunity. Mass arrest and detention, and inhuman or degrading treatment, or even torture of suspects. As what I've said, corruption can lead to or cause human rights violations. The potential disruptions caused by human rights has been laid bare in a number of areas, such as the independence of judiciary, freedom of expression of journalists and whistleblowers, freedom of assembly, detention facilities, social rights, and the trafficking of human beings. These links have been brought to the light by the Council of Human Rights bodies, not least by the European Court of Human Rights.
Wow! Thank you so much, Attorney Sagun. Now that we're getting close to the end of our discussion, let's now hear some questions from the audience.
Thank you, Miss Ariana. As what you've said, Mayor Domingo, you don't want to tolerate this kind of action. So I just want to ask, what are the ways to prevent or to elude this kind of issue?
Thank you for your question. Personally, administrative law plays an important role in preventing corruption by regulating institutions to encourage good governance and good administration, improve transparency, promote ethical values among public officials, prevent conflicts of interest, and avoid their transformation into corruption.
Thank you. Now let's move on to the next question.
Thank you. I really want to ask this question. For you, Miss Nadine Ampuan, what do you think the major causes of corruption?
Thank you for that question. As far as I'm concerned, among the most common causes of corruption are the political and economic environment, professional ethics and morality, and of course, habits, customs, traditions, and demography. Its effects on the economy and also on the wider society are well researched, yet still not completely.
Thank you so much to the both of you. Now for our last question, let's hear it.
Hi, Mayor Sagun. I just wanna know, what political system does the Philippines follow?
Philippines is a republic with a presidential form of government, wherein power is equally divided among its three branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. The government seeks to act in the best interest of its citizens through the system of check and balance.
Well said. Thank you so much for your panelists and especially to our audience. Understanding that addressing corruption is a gargantuan task, that it has the ability to permit different sectors to manifest in different form, to grow sophisticated, and get complicated in the web of conniving individuals, be they from the high or the low ranks, or be they from the public or private sectors. The lessons from the Philippines may not be a great model because corruption is far from being weeded out of its soil. Over the years, however, the country is able to display its consistent effort to fight corruption using the legislative measures and prevention programs that go hand in hand with aggressive investigation and prosecution of public offenders, and the continuous promotion of integrity work. It has secured venues to seek redress.
According to Republic Act No. 1319, Section 1, Statement of Policy, it is the policy of the Philippine government in line with the principle of a public office is a public trust to repress certain acts of public officers and private persons which constitute graft or corrupt practices or which may lead thereto. Corruption can never be eliminated. Whether we like it or not, it has been a part of human nature and will continue to infect society. Gandhi said, "World is enough for everyone needs, but not enough for everyone's good." That's all. Thank you so much for listening.